But let me get to the Houston Chronicle article. Why are POC so upset? Why are black people so upset? Why are Latinos so upset? I'll tell you why. There's an article that came out yesterday. People wonder why is it, I've had people all over the place. They've called me the N-word, doing this kind of work. N-word, all kinds of things that I don't let it bother me. In fact, I try to befriend them. I try to see where their heads are, where they're coming from. I try to be the person that's going to look beyond, because I understand most of this stuff is generated by ignorance and so forth. So anyhow, I read this article. It's a Houston Chronicle article. The title was, Some Texas religious leaders live in lavish tax-free estates thanks to obscure laws. So we know who the rich churches are mostly. And again, I don't want to be racial here, but in this case I must. Most of these big mega rich churches, yeah, there are a lot of black and Latino mega churches as well. But most of these mega churches, you know who the culprits are, and they take all these great tax advantages. And here in Texas, the Houston Chronicle decided that it was going to do a story, and not only a story, a series on the issue. So I was excited. I'm not one of those church-going people who lavish themselves or praises the church. I know the church has a lot of evil in it, right? So anyhow, I'm reading the article, and the guy did a great job. He went to the tax assessor collectors. He figured out what homes were not paying taxes, which preachers lived in mansions, and all these great things. And it's like, wow, that is great. He's doing the right thing. And he's not naming preachers per se, but he's naming organizations, etc., 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 right? And then it happened, right? When it is time to give a representative example of a church pastor taking advantage of the tax system. In other words, what is commonly known to what everybody wants people to believe is, living on the dole. Who is the first by name preacher on the negative side? I digress. The article first decides to praise two preachers. I want to read this part of the article. Remember, the article is talking a lot about these guys that don't pay their taxes. They live in these big mansions in gated communities. These are all preachers. And in Texas, they have a parsonage law that they live by that allows the pastors not to have to pay taxes on their residences, etc. So they build mega mansions with your mega dollars and your mega tax break. So here's how it goes now. This passage says it all. It doesn't look racist. It doesn't look like they're picking stuff. But when you look at it in the aggregate, the subliminal message that goes out is which preachers are on the dole. And it carries out the stereotype. And I want you guys to tell me if you don't see it. Look at this. Everybody know who Osteen is. Osteen is that mega preacher in Texas, has this prosperity gospel, makes a lot of money. He's the guy who didn't open the door when the hurricane hit until he was embarrassed into opening the door. By the way, I do like his messages when he starts talking a lot about prosperity stuff. He has some good messages, but again, preacher, Osteen, he has a big problem. And the other one is Hagee from San Antonio. Hagee, we all know is I don't want to call him a racist, but Hagee's a guy who's hate homosexuals, who hate everybody else, and has a lot of other problems. But that's who this article decided to highlight as the ones that are good in paying tax. I want to read the article now. I just needed to give some context there. It says the following. Well-off religious organizations that clearly have the means to afford their taxes don't have to seek the exemption. Lakewood Church did not ask the Harris County appraiser for a tax break on the 15,000 square foot residence of the state's most famous prosperity gospel preacher, Joel Osteen. His annual tax bill comes to $218,000 a year, according to the county. Osteen, who hasn't taken a salary since 2004, believes it's important for donors to know all their money goes to the church, said the brother-in-law, Don Olive. He could take the parsonage break, Olive said, but he pays his property taxes, just like he's supposed to do. Property records also show that San Antonio Cornerstone Church didn't seek an exemption for any clergy residences in Bexar County. Appraisals records show its well-known spiritual leader, John Hagee, pays $42,000 annually in property taxes. A spokesman said the matter was personal and declined to comment, but he pays his taxes. So here, These two controversial white pastors, they pay their taxes on their property taxes. But let's continue. But Harris County Appraisal District documents show New Light Church World Outreach and Worship Centers pay no taxes on its 25,000 square foot mansion in Spring, perched on the shore of a private lake and occupied by its high-profile leader, I.V. Hilliard. The 11.8 lot includes 3 hot tubs, 2 fountains, and a swimming pool. Who else did they pick on? Let me see. 2 controversial white preachers they lift up as being good tax-paying preachers. His name is, ¿cómo se llama? Ivan Uhueta, devoted to youth mastering. He didn't pay his property taxes. So the 2 that they highlighted for paying their property taxes, 2 controversial white preachers, but when they are wanting to show preachers living extravagantly without paying their taxes, they chose Hilliard and Uhueta. I wonder, did they check on the Second Baptist Church, which has several mega churches in the area and whose pastor hates paying taxes, is a great supporter of the Republican Party, and is trying to eliminate taxes altogether? Did they consider checking on that? I doubt it. I doubt it. But that is what I'm talking about. It's always, whenever they're making these cases, in as much as POCs are not the protagonists of all the deceit, are not the protagonists of the ones spending the money or causing the most pain, somehow they're going to be the ones that are highlighted. The same thing occurred when we talk about the coronavirus. They stopped traffic from all of Southern Africa, not just South Africa, but all these other countries that have the Mycoran strain. Not a problem. You can still come to the United States. It's always easier to hit the POCs, right? Forget this picture here. Check it out on the screen, folks. That is the Ugandan activist who was out there with the Norwegian activists and 4 others. When the AP reported that there were these youths out there to defend the climate, the top picture is what everybody saw. Unbeknownst to them, cropped out was that Ugandan girl who works very hard in the climate movement, just like Trunden does. Think about that. So one of the titles of the piece today was, "Our Media Creates Racists." And I really mean that. A lot of people infer much from what they hear on the media. And when the media does things like this, I mean, it seems subtle. It doesn't seem like it's something that is really there, but it is there. It is the subliminal messages that are sent. Climate change, fighters for climate change. We are going to make climate better. We have the youth fighting. And they don't know. A lot of African youths are in there too, including this Ugandan girl, Nakete. I think it's Nakete is her name. But we don't hear about them. And when they're in Switzerland or Davos or wherever they were, taking pictures together, when it was time for the Vanessa Nakrate, thank you very much, Nakate, thank you very much, Rodney. When it was time for the picture to go out for the world to see, they cropped her out. What did the reporter at the Houston Chronicle do? They cropped them out. They cropped 2 religious guys who have a problem and lift them up as being the supporters and defenders of paying their taxes. And when it was time to show 2 who didn't pay their taxes, they showed a Latino and they showed an African American. Now, they don't come out and they don't have to say anything. What's in your mind is that message that has been promoted to you over and over and over again. POCs on the dole, others upstanding, taking care of business. It's not quite evident. You don't see it. They don't have to come out and tell it to you. It's the same thing that they did when the former leader of the Republican Party said, "We don't use the N-words anymore. We just use phrases that codify who these people are. That's all we do now." Maywood says, "Unfortunately, that's only too true, Egberto. It may not be intentional, but the net effect is the same." Let me tell you right here and there for these reporters at the Chronicle, it was intentional. And let me tell you what I mean by intentional. They wanted their article to have faces to preachers that people could recognize as doing wrong. And in order to do that, they decided to show a Latino and a Black, in as much as all the wealthy preachers in Harris County, the vast majority, don't look like Ulueta or Hilliard. It's just that simple. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.